My name is Kelly Francis. I am the Executive Director of the HITEC Foundation. For those of you who don't know, that is HITEC's philanthropic arm in our work to uplift the next generation of technology leaders. HITEC Live is our virtual series, so you will note we are recording this session. We welcome you to join us live on camera if possible, to really make this a fluid conversation. HITEC Live is our virtual series designed to bring together the technology community to connect, learn, and grow. This session is being recorded, so come on camera, add any questions that you have into the chat, and we will be sure to get to those as well. Today's conversation centers on a theme that is reshaping leadership across industries: agentic leadership, the ability for leaders to act with intention, autonomy, and accountability while guiding their organizations through an era defined by AI, automation, and decentralized decision-making. Our discussion today will build on our first session with Pyramid that we had last year, where we talked about intentional AI strategy, human-centered design, empathetic leadership, and how to empower teams in the age of AI. Today, we will explore what it takes to lead at scale in this new environment. Our partner, Pyramid Consulting, will be leading today's session. We will explore what it takes to lead at scale. And now I'd love to welcome our moderator, Stephanie Joel-Bralston, Solution Sales Director at Pyramid, to kick us off.
Hi, everyone. I'm glad everyone could join today. So I'm Stephanie Gilbranson, and I'm the Solution Sales Director with Pyramid, as Kelly was saying. And in my role over the last 20 plus years in technology, I've done a lot of work around AI. I worked with a lot of large companies, and I'm a former 3-time IBMer, and I've worked with GE, and I've also got a background in quantum computing and using AI to enhance what we can get out of that at this early stage, and I'm happy to be here. And I don't know if I'll go ahead and let Anil and Tomas and Elizabeth introduce themselves. They are our panelists today. And Anil, if you want to kick it off, go ahead.
Sure. Thanks, Stephanie. Good afternoon, everybody. Again, this is my second webinar with HITEC. Thank you for giving me another chance. That shows that I think I did something good in the last one. But that was a great session. I think it was a good kickoff to discussion on AI. And so I think this is a very nice next series in it, because the world is very fast moving towards agentic AI. And that's been the topic of discussion in my current role, which is a global head for data and AI with Pyramid, where I am basically constantly engaged with the C-suite in guiding them, strategizing them about their data and AI. So really looking forward to this conversation. Thomas, you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, everybody. It's good to see you all, and hopefully we'll make this somewhat interactive with some good questions. But I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I'm Tomas. I'm the CISO for the National Football League, a small organization you've probably never heard of before, and you probably don't have any teams that you root for. And there was a show that happened a few weekends ago that you probably didn't actually see. So I encourage you all to go Google NFL and maybe Benito Bowl. But I'm really happy to be here, happy to talk about this topic that's not only taking shape across our industry in sports and entertainment, but also just across every industry at large around agentic AI and AI in general, and what does that actually mean for a company. So happy to be here, happy to have the conversation, and I will pass it over to Liz.
Thank you, Tomas. Well, my background is not as exciting as yours, Tomas, but Liz Augusto. I spent about 25 years on Wall Street at the intersection of technology, risk, people, operational, you name it, I've kind of done it. Most recently, I spent almost a decade at BNY, scaling the organization from about I want to say 18 to over 600 people and across 11 countries. I like to say that's one of my great stories. Most today, I'm on my own. I started my own consulting organization, and now I help leaders with AI transformation, ensuring that, I leverage my background in cyber and operations and all these other things to ensure that their transformation is not only secure, but that the adoption sticks and that the people are part of the transformation and not sort of running away from it. So I'm happy to be here. And I'm also, most importantly, on the board of HITEC as well, as some of you may know. Thank you.
Yeah, great. And that's a great segue into our first topic here. So around the framing and strategy, and we'll go ahead and go to you, Liz, first. Where do organizations tend to over-index on AI while under-investing in trust, context, and judgment? And then we'll kind of go into the second part of that, of what assumptions create the most resistance. So I'll go ahead and...
Sure. So I would say, in the work that I do and the work I've done in transformations, I see that many organizations buying the shiny AI tools, right? And then being surprised when nothing really changes. I've seen sort of, they have the powerful technology, but that the human systems around it are weak. There's no shared context. There's low trust. There's unclear decision rights. And I like to say it's like putting a jet engine on a car, but never teaching the driver how to use the new controls, right? And a big question I get asked often is like, well, okay, the human element, is that measurable? And I like to say, absolutely. You can track engagement scores, you can track retention rates, time to adoption, error rates, and when people override AI, because when people trust the system, the numbers really show it. On the topic of the assumptions, I would say a common harmful assumption is this idea that if we roll out AI, people are naturally going to see it as help, not a threat. And I'm here to tell you they won't, right? Especially if you don't tell a clear story about what it means for their jobs, for their growth. If you don't say, this technology or tool or this AI, here's how this is going to change your day to day. Here's what will not change. Here's how we'll invest in you. People have a tendency to assume the worst. In financial services specifically, which is mainly where I've been, we had to prove, AI was trustworthy, to regulators before we could even pilot it. So a lot of those experiences taught me that you need buy-in at every level, not just your team, but the people who audit you. So as I think an agentic leader names the fear, gives specifics, makes commitments that they're willing to be held accountable for. And this is not, go ahead. And this is not about, being nice. I think that organizations that don't solve the human side are going to lose their best talent and fail at transformation because the people are just not willing, right? The human systems aren't optional anymore. So to close on that, I would say that agentic leadership means you remain fully accountable for outcomes. Even when AI is doing the work, you're the agent, the one who acts, decides, and takes responsibility.
Great. Yeah, those are great points. Anything else you guys want to add on the panel?
Just quick thing, like, and great point, Liz. And I think to move towards a true agentic leadership, I think we have to stop treating AI as these IT projects and start treating it as a change management challenge, where the human system is the primary engine for the ROI and not the actual AI. So.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. So we're going to go on to decision making and accountability. So Thomas, what decisions must remain human-led, and what new leadership skills are required to maintain accountability while still empowering teams to use AI confidently?
Yeah, look, not to dovetail too much into or overlap too much with what Liz was sort of describing, but I think there's some key components around what Liz was describing where AI is essentially a tool, right? It's a tool for you to do your job and to do your job in a way that's either more efficient or more effectively. I wish there was AI back when I joined the NFL because I would have asked it, hey, how do you secure a Super Bowl? And maybe it would have told me how to actually do it, and I wouldn't have to figure it
Right.
out for myself, right? But that tool is really, when applied correctly, is really to aid you in being better at what you're trying to execute on, right? So that decision making factor is still going to be with the human, right? How does you've heard throughout when generative AI sort of started, you heard a lot of conversation around generative AI sort of hallucinates, right? The output hallucinates. The output is not always exact. The output may actually create something new that doesn't actually exist. Well, the human needs to be in the loop to review the outputs of the technology, right? The outputs of the tool that you're using, so that you can make the best decisions possible. You can't let the AI tool make risk decisions for you, right? If we think about what we do on a daily basis across every single industry, cybersecurity is not focused, and information security is not focused on like blocking and stopping things. When you're doing cybersecurity, information security effectively, you're managing risk just like any other business function would manage risk. Well, if you want to use AI to help you do analysis on what the potential risk outcomes could be, that's a good use of the tool. But making the decision as to what path to proceed with, and that risk decision is going to be up to the human, right? Up to humans to be able to decipher what's good, better, and different. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to know the impact to the business, the impact to their customers, right? The impact to the audience, depending upon what the tool is actually being leveraged for. So I think that component of decision-making process, which is probably the most critical one, is going to be something that we need to hone in on and make sure that as we're educating leaders and we're growing leaders to start to leverage this newfound technology environment or ecosystem to help them either manage their team or manage their processes or even manage their own workflows effectively, we're going to have to educate those individuals to leverage those technologies in a way that makes sense for their respective organization and for the outcomes that they're looking to deliver on. So that way, you're not 100% reliant upon the actual tool. You're the final decision maker. So I think that's the key point around the decisioning process. I think just from a general leadership standpoint, you know, when I know I've always heard cybersecurity is everyone's problem, right? And I firmly believe that. I firmly buy into that mentality. I firmly buy into the, um, that sort of joint approach to securing anything, whether it's securing your business process or securing your company or securing the Super Bowl. It's not only my problem to solve, right? I might be the leader and the accountable person that needs to lead us in a certain direction, but we all have a certain component to play in securing in effective security. I think about AI in that same manner where, and even more so in that manner where every single line of business leader has a thought process around how AI will have some sort of impact in or on their business, their workflows, and on their people. And because of that, you need to approach AI from a leadership standpoint in the form of a cross-functional team effort where you bring several different bodies of people that have different opinions, but also very key leadership roles within the organization to tackle how are we actually leveraging AI within our organization. And then you start to dissect all of the components of that, right? From everything that around people, process, technology, right? The biggest piece that I think a lot of organizations are starting to, I don't want to say miss, but they're not spending a lot of time on is kind of what I think Liz alluded to it, and I'm getting my conversation mixed out. I know she alluded to it now or prior, but that change management component, which is how is AI impacting the current user population or the current workforce, and how are you explaining the intentions of AI in your workflow and in your business to that workflow, to that workforce that you have, to manage that change management piece around setting expectations, right? You'll have a workforce of individuals that are very senior and very junior and everyone in between. And the way you articulate how AI is going to impact them or be leveraged within that organization is going to dictate how their perspective and their perception on AI, whether it's, the perception of, oh, it's taking my job versus, no, it's a tool to help you, to be an aid to help you do your job better. So I think as leaders, we need to be very mindful of how we're leveraging AI, the skill sets that we are looking to develop with AI within our own sort of a resource population. But then at the end of the day, we also need to keep in mind that there's still humans that are doing a job and a job function, and how we're managing that change management. So hopefully in that long-winded ramble, some of that made sense to everyone.
That's great.
No, absolutely. A lot of it made sense. Those were great, excellent points. Anil, Liz, any comments to add on?
Yeah, I think, one of the things I see a lot of is that a lot of these AI strategies, when I work with some of my clients, they talk about they have budget for the technology, they have budget for this, they have budget for that. And we start going over the strategy, but nobody talks about the communication strategy for rolling out and deploying AI. And I think that's one of the most critical pieces, right? Because people are going to make up their own minds and they're always going to think the worst. So if they don't know what's coming or why they're doing it and what the technology is going to do or not, then they start making their own assumptions. And that's why you'll start to see people leaving, or, I do these assessments with some of our clients, and I talk to the individuals in the different teams to get some insight. And the first thing that I've heard people ask me is, so they're going to let us go, right? And it's this
Right.
fear. So, and that's all because the leadership isn't communicating. So I think a huge part of the strategy for leaders who are on this call and they're thinking about AI transformation, or they're in the middle of it, make sure that you have a very good communication strategy, not just for your employees, but for your regulators, for senior leadership. How are you communicating all of these changes and what the impact is going to be across the organization? So I think communication strategy is really critical and something that is often not included in a lot of these plans.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
totally.
just one quick comment from my side, Stephanie, is like, I think one important skill that leaders can bring to the table to just make everybody feel at ease is this algorithmic judgment, right? If the leaders have this ability to interrogate an AI's output rather than blindly inherit it, I think it empowers the entire team. So, accountability in this agentic world requires leaders to move from just being doers to being these editors in chiefs, right? So the primary value lies in providing the strategic context and the moral compass, that algorithm will never be able to give. And I think that will help the team even more.
Yeah, great. Those are all excellent points. And I think, I guess we forget that there's a lot of folks that AI is still new to, that you're introducing this to, and there's a lot of uncertainty and maybe a little fear, and the communication that you've all talked about and the collaboration and, treating the employees as partners kind of in these rollouts is really important for the adoption and to get the best use out of the AI. I guess is, and I think that's a great point, because we've seen a lot of failures in that. So, any other thoughts?
The only other thought I was going to add was the other sort of leadership, I don't want to say skill, but, just thinking from a leadership perspective, we always need to, at least I always try to think about how can I leverage any new technology, AI being one of them, but any new technology, how can I leverage the new technology to enable the business to do and execute on the objectives that they have laid out, right? And yes, I'm a cyber professional. My job is to secure things, right, to make sure that nothing bad happens. But I'm also a business leader, and I'm always thinking, how can I leverage cybersecurity skill set to continually enable the business to go faster, make, be more profitable, take more calculated and more acceptable risk, right, and minimize risk while they're doing that. And so when I think about AI, there's the how do we consume it and use it and manage the change management component of that, but also simple things like looking at your organization and seeing, well, how is AI consuming our product, right? If you think about it from the perspective of like your external presence to the world, right? Your internet presence to the world. Well, simple things like potentially going into your web portal and writing instructions for AI to be able to understand your web page might be a good way for you to start to control the narrative around how AI is consuming your product, right?
Yep.
How AI is interacting with your e-commerce website to make transactions, right? You have to you have to realize that the AI world is running so fast, right? Where you have AI being used for individual tasks like rewrite a sentence in an email to, hey, read my emails and respond to queries, to read my emails and potentially predict what concert I want to go to. When do I want to go see Benito and perform again in another country, and have an AI agent tied to my Gmail, look at my calendar, my email, look at my calendar, find when my availability is, be able to analyze my credit bank account and say, oh, yep, I have budget and funding on my bank statement, and then see that, Benito's performing in I don't know, in Portugal or Belgium in a few months, and then purchase a ticket. Well, that's all great. But if you're the ticketing vendor or you're the vendor that's promoting that, maybe you rewrite your webpage to be able to provide instructions so that the AI agent can make better decisions faster and more efficient to, again, sell your product to that audience, to that individual that's out there potentially looking. So not only looking at AI for how you're using it internally, but also looking at AI to enhance and enable your product to be more externally visible and externally identified and used, if you will. So just something to think about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So really a tool to drive outcomes in new ways, right? And have a really high ROI. That's really cool. Anything else, guys?
No, I love that. I just want to add on to that it's the customer experience, not just the internal building efficiencies, but how do you improve the customer and client experience? I love that, Tomas. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We also have a question in the chat from Julie. What about AI to review for fraud in healthcare?
Depends on what. It depends on what
Yeah.
on what the task is, right? One of the things I'll say is you'd be surprised how many individuals don't really track or assess before they bring a new tool into the environment, like what the life cycle is in the different groups. So they'll get a little FOMO because somebody in company A is doing something and they think that they need that same tool to compete. But I think one of the things that people need to understand is, what is it that we're doing? What are we securing? What are we trying to build efficiencies? What area are we trying to create a better experience? And then understand the full flow. So when you talk about the fraud aspect of it, I think, there's obviously technology that can help with a lot of different things, but are you talking about analyzing the data? Are you talking about, responding to certain things? Or, it depends on what specific technology you're looking for from an AI perspective. But you need to understand the full life cycle so that you can understand where does the human go in there. And at the end, the human must be the one providing the judgment in the last call. Would Anil or Tomas, do you want to?
You're absolutely right, Release, and that's exactly what we are helping our customers in healthcare with is basically first and foremost, right? It's just saying that AI can help you with the fraud is a very broad statement. But what you need to do is study that process first. Like, okay, in that process, where can I really use AI more as a co-worker to make my process more efficient, right? Like they should not be the decision makers, but they should be the process efficiency gainer or multipliers, right? So what task for a human might take like a week, AI can do it in like hours or days. And so the output of that is now fed to human who can now just review it quickly, right? So the idea is that because it's AI and it can look at 10 different data sets very quickly and still find that pattern that can match with the fraud, yes, that's where you use AI. But to Liz's point, there should be a human in the loop that finally looks at it, reviews it, and certifies that yes, it is truly a fraud. But yes, AI can be a great efficiency multiplier for any healthcare fraud processes.
And make sure that you have policies and procedures in place, right? From a security
Guardrails.
standpoint. Tomas could probably
Yeah.
add a little more to that, but the security aspect of, because now when you're talking about healthcare, there's so much data that
And PI
is
data,
obviously
right?
confidential.
Like
That's right.
yeah.
So you've got the PII data. I mean, all of that, and both for fraud, right? Because in fraud, it's again client data. Anytime you have to make sure that you have policies in place and procedures to how you're doing that, because it depends on what company you're working for. If you're in a highly regulated industry, which I would say the healthcare industry is, just like, financial services, you better be ready to provide evidence of the AI technology and the tools that you're leveraging, and how you're securing the data, how you're ensuring that the judgment is such that you've got a human person at the end sort of discerning and making sure that you're not introducing new risks to the environment, to the organization, and or the client on the other side.
Right.
Yep. And any other questions? Or we have, Anil, since you've been speaking, let's go ahead and talk about like the culture, the behavior change in the workforce readiness, which I think we kind of have touched on. Tomas and Liz and yourself have all kind of touched on that. But what cultural behaviors need to shift first for AI adoption to succeed? And how do leaders create psychological safety? And I think, again, we kind of touched on that on a little bit, but as these roles start to evolve, and they will, like, we've been talking about, Tomas said, AI is moving at the speed of light, and it is. Like every time I turn around, there's some, I got to learn something else. It's doing something else. Someone else found some way to use that. And that's not going, that's not going anywhere. So, what other cultural behaviors do you think need to shift for AI adoption to succeed?
Yeah, and with the so much proliferation of AI, and you're absolutely right. Like we're talking about change management so much. So I've seen this in a lot of organizations who have successfully implemented AI and who sort of stumbled while doing it, is because I think the critical cultural shift that has to happen right now is we are stuck in the culture of culture of experts. Like everybody has to be really accurate about everything, and now we need to move to a culture of experimenters, and it's okay to fail kind of culture, right? So in most organizations, leadership is traditionally defined by having the right answers. Like always, you have to have the right answers. But now I think with AI, AI adoption actually requires the humility and to ask the right questions and iterate through the wrong outputs that you might get or the wrong answers you might get, right? So it's all about creating those feedback loops in AI, and how do you make that initial wrong answers into the correct interpretation, and then how do you create this psychological safety for your workforce? I think you have to decouple your human value from these routine tasks, right? And I think Liz and Thomas both pointed to it, like if employees' worth is tied to a report that AI can now generate in like few seconds, they will naturally resist the change, right? So as a leader, I think we must explicitly reward the productive failure and keep it very transparent, right? Make it safe for the team to flag that this AI is hallucinating or when the process is breaking. And I think the biggest fear that I see that's happening in the task force is that people are not ready to sort of, put themselves to that test. And trust building is very important. I think that's but promising that people within those roles, that your role will not change is, according to me, a false promise, right? So you have to make sure that you're also giving people the right opportunities to say that your role might change. You have to basically re-architect yourself. So those are some of the pointers that I would say has really worked.
Yeah, I would echo with what Anil said, and sort of hone in on the individual changing or adapting, right? Look, technology, AI aside for a quick second, right? Technology in general has over the years replaced jobs, right? Replaced individuals' jobs. And if you think about functions and talking as a leader, right? As leaders amongst leaders here, you always have to be looking at how you identify opportunities to be more efficient, do more with less, all that jazz that always comes up year over year in your organization because you're managing your function as any other, as if you were managing a P&L. So the key is, and people need to fully appreciate and embrace, is that if you're in a role that is easily repeatable by a piece of technology, that slice of workflow that you're doing will most likely get overtaken by that technology. Let's fast forward to AI. If I'm in a role that I know my role will potentially be overtaken by AI or generative AI, well, why don't I adapt and become a really good prompt writer to start to identify opportunities to create better workflows that could be more automated, right? Now I've upskilled myself to learn how to embrace the technology and rather have it replace me entirely. I've freed up myself to do higher level, higher value work, right?
Exactly.
Now, if we all sort of, as leaders, if we look at our organization and we say, all right, what are those roles that I could free up this individual's time and really stretch them to do something else? That's the value of what you can get out of leveraging AI technology within your own organization. But you have to be very clear and crisp with those individuals so that they understand the outcome, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're not clear and you say to someone, hey, just use this AI tool. I think you can do your job faster if you use this AI tool. Yeah, you're going to get that immediate hesitation like, whoa, over time, I'm not going to be needed because that tool is going to replace me. But if you articulate, look, I want to free up your function for some of this work that I know that you're doing that could be easily repeatable by AI technology, so you can free up and do more high value work because I want to stretch you and grow you in these other areas, and that individual is receptive to that. I think that's a really good conversation around career development and change management within your organization. It's not for everybody, and that's a very frank statement that I'm making. But for the individuals that embrace that change, you're going to see a whole different reaction and embracement of AI within your organization. So that change management piece and that clear communication around how are you within your organization adopting AI is going to be very crisp, very critical to the positive reaction that you get from your workforce and the positive reaction that you get from your business stakeholders. And you will probably avoid headlines in the news where it's like, oh, company X removed their entire workforce because they adopted AI technology. No, company X found better efficiencies and moved those individuals to do more high value work within the organization.
And that's such a great point, right? I mean,
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
resistance against AI, according to me, is the biggest obstacle right now for any organization. And I think leaders have to stop pitching AI as a way to do the same work with fewer people. And I don't think start positioning it more as, way to do a higher value work, like you talked about, Thomas, right? Like this is, if there is a better efficiency, all these other high value work that you were not getting time to do, now you will get to it, right? So I think that's where the resistance will automatically fade, and people will realize the higher potential of AI.
Yeah. Great upskilling, career growth. Those are great ways to position AI to folks, because obviously a lot of folks are business people that are going to be using AI. They
Yeah.
don't have tech backgrounds, and it's still
Right.
kind of a black box mystery to them. So putting it in the terms of career growth, being more valuable. Yeah, I think that those are excellent ideas for how you communicate. And I know we've had several questions pop up. Didn't know if we wanted to wait, if there's a couple we want to hit on those.
There's
If
one
we
in the
have
chat that sort of speaks to the topic that we were just covering, and the piece that I would say, what I said earlier around creating that cross-functional group. One of those key individuals in that cross-functional group is HR, right? Working with your HR department to sort through how is technology changing the workforce and how is that workforce changing over time, so that you can find those right levels of opportunities within your organization for those individuals that may be quote unquote at risk if their job is quote unquote repeatable or not with AI technology, right? And again, this is not new, right? This happened years ago with call centers. This happened years ago with the computer being introduced and replacing the typewriter, right?
Clerks, everything,
This
yeah.
happened with data. Like, this is not new. This is just a new tool. How do we effectively bring this new tool into the ecosystem of our organization so that it's disruptive in a positive way? And that's why I think it's key and critical to work with your HR business partners on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. There's, there has to be collaboration and communication, integration on that. Do we want to take a couple of questions here?
Yeah, I think we should. There's a question on the panel. It says, if you were advising a CIO or a CAIO starting an agentic AI strategy in the next 90 days, what's the one move they should make immediately and the one move they should absolutely avoid? And I could take a part of that. I would say something that a lot of companies are not doing that they should is they need to assess their organization for readiness, AI readiness, because we all know that AI will amplify both good and bad. So if you already have chaos and your data is not clean and all of that other stuff, you're just going to have more of that. It's going to be messier. And then you're going to be left with, paying millions of dollars for technology and tools that are going to sit on a shelf, right? That people aren't going to use because now you can't, and you can't trust the output and all of that. So I would say one of the things I always tell leaders is that I always advise them, make sure that you have an AI readiness. And what that means is you assess and understand the processes across the organization. If there's an area where you feel, I would say, know the areas in your organization that need to be improved. Oftentimes it's not just because company A is doing something and they're doing something big in their sales team doesn't mean you need to do that. There could be a customer service. It could be something small that will improve the entire customer and client experience for you. So understanding what your pain points are is number one. Understanding what you're going to AIfy. So if you're going to bring AI technology and tools into your organization, what are you going to automate? Understand what are the things that should be automated and what are the things that maybe should probably be left to a human still. And understanding that you need a communication strategy. How is this technology, tools, automation going to impact the workforce? How is it going to build efficiencies? Is it going to create new roles and opportunities across the organization? It's so important to have a communication strategy. I cannot stress that enough. Otherwise, you're going to have people that are going to make assumptions about what's going to happen and they're going to leave, or they're going to be resistant to the change. You're going to have all these tools and people are not going to use them or use them properly. Make sure that there's strategies and policies and procedures and all of that. Like, there needs to be a full strategy for any AI transformation. I would say start there.
Yeah, and I would just again amplify what Liz said around the readiness assessment. I think look, I would hope we're past the AI hype where companies can start to feel like they can take time to do that work, right?
Yes.
And obviously there's companies that are producing AI products that we consume. And so they're always going to be competing with each other. And I'm talking about us, the consumers, where we're looking at it along the lines of what Liz said, which is what are we actually looking, what's the outcome that we really want to obtain with leveraging this technology? And I think that AI readiness assessment is going to be huge because I know, Anil, you'll probably agree with me on this, right? If you have, for part of my language, we have crappy data, you're going to get crappy output. So you want to make sure that your data is structured in a way to give you the right levels of output that you want. So how ready are you to put an LLM to map to your data and be able to give you the results that you want? The other thing as a cyber professional, if I put my hat on, and Liz mentioned this, it'll amplify your weaknesses, right? If you have weaknesses in identity access management,
yeah.
AI is not the problem. The problem is your weaknesses in identity access management. AI is just going to exacerbate those problems by making that data available to users that are not authorized and entitled to see that information, right? So you need to do, the fundamentals first, the readiness assessment, like Liz said, and then the data, make sure that you have data, I don't want to say data cleanup, but make sure you have the right data repositories so that you can map the LLMs that you want to that to get the right levels of outputs. And I would start with the most mature workflows that you have today. And I'll give you an example for my finance people, right? Most of you probably remember RPA, robotic process automation. If you think about RPA and how that started, right? You had to do a lot of iterations to get the actions right for the robots to be able to perform the actions of the accounts payable, accounts receivable analysts, if you will. It's almost those same little baby steps. And to me, RPA is probably right for moving towards more generative AI, agentic AI type of a solution. And what I'm getting at is take those mature workflows and then work on those. But again, what is the outcome that you really want to get to? Because not everything needs to be tied to an AI or agentic AI.
That's right.
No, great point, and I think you covered most of it. The only thing I'll say, and I always tell my clients, is that don't build a hammer and then find a nail to hit on it.
That's right.
Because I think that's what is happening in all organizations, is that they're bringing in AI as a tool without even knowing what problem it is solving for me. It is just the race to get to AI first. And I think that's the biggest pitfall for all of these AI being what I think it was 95% failure rate, because you're not even able to monitor now the success of that project because you haven't started with the KPIs. You haven't started with what business problem am I really solving by bringing AI into this organization. And it goes back to your earlier point, Thomas. AI is just a tool. You should have done that with any other tool that you brought in before AI. Is this tool the right tool for my organization? Is it going to help me to solve the business problem that I'm facing the most? And with AI, it just needs so much clean, well-governed data. Then that becomes obviously a point that you have to emphasize on. Like, does my organization even knows where my data is coming from? Do I know if that's the correct data or not? Is it well governed? Like Thomas's point, do I know who has access to this data and who don't? So I think that aspect of AI is always missed out. So I will say, yeah, I mean, those are the key points. I think you got quite a bit from us.
And I think what you just covered too, Anil, maps to the question that's in the chat around companies like, say, I don't want to sort of mention the company names, but what you should consolidate into their data lakes or have your own sort of data lake. And I think what you outlined there, and I almost need to hedge on my response. I'm not giving you cyber advice for all of you to do within your organizations. I don't know your organization's mandates, but I would say, and I would strongly advise that if you have intellectual property or trade secrets, you keep that data within your own environment that you manage, maintain, and control, and you don't expose that into these external data lakes for these external third parties. You provide a sort of interface to be able to leverage the LLM to be able to get the responses from your data, but you're not training or providing that data in those repositories. Because a few things could go wrong. One primarily could be it gets breached and all your data is gone. The second is you decide to close the contract with that vendor and move to a different vendor. Well, now your data is tied up in that location, especially your IP. So those are some things to think about. I'm not your CISO, but I would contact your security organization and go from there.
No, those are great points, and that's what we are also advising to all our customer clients too, is that take control of your data, especially in the age of AI. the more you are tied to these vendors for your data, it's going to only hurt you in the long term. So it might be a longer roadmap for you to build your own data repository, but that's the right way to do it because now you are in control of your data. You can put the governance on it. You can dictate the terms as to who get access to that data and who doesn't. And you will see as you contact these vendors that you mentioned, there will be a big resistance to get data, your own data from their environment into your environment. But that's the right choice to do it here because, like I said, in the age of AI, data is the new oil. So if you do not have control on your own data, you will always be asking somebody else for help. And I think that should not be the situation you should put your company in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we had a few more questions pop in.
I did want to, if we could go to the prep, because we have 15 minutes, could we touch on how different, like, people are in different career stages?
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah,
how
absolutely.
to
So,
prepare, because I think we want folks to walk away with good understanding at all the different levels, if that's okay.
oh,
Yeah,
yeah, no,
go into it,
absolutely.
Liz. I think that maps to the question that's in the chat too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
thank you. So I think one of the questions I get asked a lot from people that I mentor, early career, if you're early career, you're 25 or younger, and maybe you graduated from college and you're scared that AI is going to take your job, or you just joined the workforce and you think, oh God, what does this mean? I tell people that I think one of the best things you can do is just being open to learning and asking a lot of questions. I think the people that will be very successful in the age of AI are the people that ask a ton of questions. Don't be shy, right? Because that's how you're going to learn. You don't have the relationships or the experience yet, and that's okay. But what you do have is, fresh thinking and the ability to be creative about leveraging what you already learned in school. So if you studied software development as an example, and you see some of those roles changing, I would say think about how you take that problem solving mindset and apply it differently. So your advantage in this case is not really experience, but it's adaptability. And adaptability is going to be the new thing, right? Where if you have that ability to be agile, and you're not locked into how we've always done things, I'd say use that. If you're mid-career, I'd say mid-career is where people feel the biggest squeeze, I would say.
Absolutely.
Because AI can now do a lot of the tasks that built your reputation, but your value isn't what you typed on a keyboard, it's your judgment, your relationships. Again, the ability to ask challenging questions, to challenge the AI, right? Because the AI is going to provide insight, but again, the judgment piece is always, and the discernment is you. I'd say that the smartest person in the room is no longer the advantage, right? Because we have AI now that can think for us, right? So your advantage is, the ability to switch gears when problems change, connecting dots across unrelated systems, right? Leveraging judgment based on experience that AI doesn't yet have. So AI gives you the data and you provide the wisdom. And then lastly, for executives, I would say that AI fluent executives, have the ability or can articulate where AI can actually create value in their business and where it shouldn't be used. They can ask the right risk and ethics questions without needing a PhD or, something in ComSci or whatever. They can communicate a clear narrative that connects AI to the strategy, the people, and the culture. You don't necessarily need to build models. You just need to, I think there's an important piece is that you need to build the guardrails, sponsor the guardrails that protect us, set the expectations for how AI is used, and then as a leader, model the behavior of using AI as a partner, right? Like a co-pilot, but still staying fully accountable as a human leader. So, and creating a psychological safety net for people to say to you, hey, I leveraged that AI model, but this was the output, and I don't think that this is right. And and allowing for people to come to you and have that safe space to challenge the AI models when they don't agree with the output. So I'll turn to my
Yeah,
if there's anything to add, but I just wanted to make sure that people knew at every stage what they should be thinking about, that it's not something
that's
to
very
fear.
important.
I would just add, and I agree with everything that Liz sort of stepped through. I think that's the right approach and the way to think about it. So I absolutely agree with that. I think the other thing that I would sort of add is if you're not using the tools that are available today, and that, I'm just gonna call them chat or AI assistants, you can you can use your favorite search tool to find the one that you want, but use them and ask them, teach me about AI. And have
Yep.
a conversation with them. I say that almost jokingly and laughing, but
No, but
you can
that's the
actually have
truth.
a conversation with these chatbots,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
they'll teach you how it works. Now, obviously, you need to try to understand the fundamentals first and validate the output that they're saying. But for the most part, if you ask them, teach me about AI, they're going to teach you the fundamentals and probably get it, 100% right and accurate. And then just go from there. Keep building your knowledge. The most important part is not to be fearful of it, to embrace it and just try to learn. And the best way to try to learn is by playing with it. Don't put your social security number, your password, your credit card number. Don't put any of that detail in there. Don't use those things and put your face in there and say, show me the caricature of my face, because it's gonna basically learn over your face. So I would not condone that piece, but absolutely have a conversation with it and say, hey, can you teach me about a topic, or teach me about AI or agentic AI, or the likes.
And absolutely great point, Thomas and Liz. Like, don't use AI as your psychiatrist for sure, but they are great tutors. I mean, all AI tools, like, they can really help you, sort of, to Liz's point, elevate your skill set. Right? I mean, with any advancements in the technology, be it a .NET era or any other technology advancement, those who adapted to it and actually use that to elevate their skill set, were the successful people. I think that's what the new career people has to do, is that elevate your skill set, use AI actually as somebody who can help you. And I think mid-career people have the hardest transition, absolutely, because you've been the traffic controller for all your life, and now you're all of a sudden have to become this architects of outcomes, right? So that's where I see the shift. I think you need to train yourself on how are you able to manage these hybrid teams, because slowly you're gonna have the human team, I mean, and you're gonna have a digital team also along with it. So how do you manage that hybrid team is going to be the biggest shift for you. And I think for the senior executives, absolutely, Liz, I am in point with you. I think their biggest, uh, I think, contribution in this is going to be setting those guardrails, setting those ethical boundaries, so that when the team is going about implementing everything fearlessly, because they know that the boundaries are already set, and as long as they are not crossing those boundaries, they can experiment within those boundaries. And I think that's when the innovations will come out. But it is up to these leaders to make sure that they don't create a wild west world. They are the ones who are in charge of setting up those boundaries, setting up those guardrails, and making sure that the organization is creating explainable AI, ethical AI, and I think everybody will embrace AI very quickly in your organization.
Yep. And, just to close this out, and this is to everyone on the panel, what is the single most important piece of advice that you would offer leaders who are navigating this transformation with AI today?
I would say you have to remember, right? Technology doesn't transform organizations, people do, right? So every transformation is a people story before it's even a technology story. Remember, you can buy the best AI tools in the world, but if people don't trust them and they don't understand the why, or don't see themselves in the future that you're building, the transformation is going to stall. And I'll speak from a financial services perspective. I learned, that the organizations that succeed with large digital transformations or any change management of any sort are the ones that can explain their decisions to, regulators, to shareholders, to employees in the same clear language. So I have strong messages: put humans first, use AI as a partner, a co-pilot, and ensure that when you're leading, that you're leading with clarity and accountability, and measure success not just by the speed and the efficiency, but by how much opportunity you
Sure.
create for the teams. And I think that's
Right.
how you make change stick?
To the point again, Liz. Yeah, I mean see, in this era, I think the true agentic leadership requires us to move from this command and control culture that we have into the mindset of making it more context and a curation one, right? So the job is no longer for us to monitor every task, but we have to provide extreme clarity on why we are doing it and the boundaries to which not only the team but even the AI agents has to stick to. So once you define that, then your team and your AI agents can move autonomously within those boundaries, and they don't drift off course, right? Like I was telling earlier. And if you don't build this transparency, I would say radical transparency, right? People will view AI as a black box, and this something that threatens their job, rather than I want them to look at it as co-worker, right? That just extends their sort of a job and help them with. So I think the successful leaders in this agentic AI world won't be the most tech savvy, to Liz's point. I think they will be the ones that are most human centric, those who will double down on empathy and vision, while they let the machine handle the math part of it.
I can't wait for it to take over my job, respond to all the emails I get from vendors soliciting me or even friends asking me for Super Bowl tickets. So the minute it can do that, I'm absolutely signing up for that agentic AI solution. But look, joking aside, invest in people. You absolutely have to invest in your people, build that cross-functional team within your organization. AI is going to disrupt every single aspect of the business. So you need to you need to be that leader, that technology leader that brings all of those individual players to the table to have a conversation around how is the disruption both positive and negative, but more importantly, how is it enabling you to provide the best product to your customers, right? And then be very, very transparent about risk. And so make sure you invest in doing risk assessments, not only the readiness assessment for your organization, but the also after you've decided to embark upon an initiative that you've invested in doing a risk assessment of the technology to make sure that you have the right level of guardrails, as Anil and Liz have pointed out, because the worst thing you could do is lose your customers' trust. And if you don't have the right guardrails around your AI solutions to give you the right level of output, it'll impact your customer service and your product, and that you'll lose your customer trust, and you'll see your company stock go in the wrong direction. So that would be my sort of parting words of wisdom for you. But embrace it. It's here. It's not going away. It's like spell check an email. You remember when you didn't have it, and now you have it. It does grammar check. It finishes sentences for you. It's already there. So embrace it, use it, and just use it appropriately.
Don't be fearful of AI. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing I'll say. I mean, it is here to help us, and so take the help.
Yeah, exactly. Treat it like a genius analyst, right?
Yes.
Who does great work,
Great
but
work.
you still have to check their work.
But
right?
And you don't have to pay it. You don't have to
You don't have
feed
to
it.
pay it. You get 24
and it
hours.
doesn't need to sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
It's great.
No lunch break.
Right.
Great,
So
great
we
discussion.
have a couple minutes left. So any final thoughts or questions? Closing remarks with the couple of minutes that we have left.
I just wanted to see if anybody had a question in the. No. Okay. I think we
No.
answered all of them.
No, I think we answered all of them. And I think, yeah, the point of all this discussion is that, yes, humans are and will still remain the critical piece of this. AI is not here and will not replace human. That's, again, my belief and my strong, um, uh, uh, completely belief on that, basically, is that humans are here to stay. And I think as a leaders, that's the point that we have to tell to our leaders that, look, I mean, AI is here to make the efficiency in our processes, but humans still needs to verify that.
Yeah, and be agile, open to change, because things change very quickly. So just
I'll
be
tell you
open
the one
to
thing I
change.
don't like. We've gotten really good at writing emails. Have you not seen emails from your colleagues? They're so
Oh, yeah.
perfectly written. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
man,
Yeah, no
I missed
mistakes.
I missed the spelling errors and all that grammar errors.
Oh, I mean, meeting minutes to the second.
Oh, I love
every-
that. That's my
I love
favorite.
that. I agree.
Oh, the meeting
Gone
minutes.
are the days
Yeah.
when I was constantly scribbling on the side while
Yes.
like
Yes.
I actually do enjoy the meeting minutes. That's probably one of the best things. Yep.
Oh my God.
And I think there was an AI note taker on this call. So AI note taker, if you were taking notes, make sure you send me your bank account and transfer all the money to my name.
We
Absolutely.
Well, to all of
your
our
hard work,
panelists,
note taker.
thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so
Thank you,
much for
guys.
joining us today. You reminded us that even though technology continues to accelerate, it's really the human judgment that's going to guide all of our transformations into the future. Before you leave, I have added a link to a survey in the chat. This helps us improve our processes and come up with topics for future HITEC Live sessions. So we hope that you will take that. Thank you so much to Pyramid for helping lead today's conversation. To all of our panelists, you are phenomenal. We look forward to seeing you at the next HITEC Live. And until then, we encourage you to stay connected, stay curious, and continue to lead as architects of growth. Thank you so much for being here.
thanks
Thank
everyone.
you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Great
Good
collab.
afternoon.
Thank you,
Bye.
Stephanie. Thank you,
Yeah,
Thomas.
everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you so much.
Bye.
Bye.